Anyhow, this woman, called Anne-Marie Waters, was once upon a time, very recently, the head of, or ran Sharia Watch. That was her thing. But now she wants to go up in the world and increase her credibility. She's done with being seen as some kind of, pseudo right-winger with vacuous opinions and ill-thought-out ideas. So she gave it all up. Now she wants to become the head of UKIP. Total change in direction. And she has a view on Islam. I'll play you the longer clip in a second. She has a view that Islam is evil. Now, here's the thing. A senior UKIP MEP has already resigned as Deputy Whip of the European Parliament over support within the party for her campaign. This is a guy called Mike Hookham. You may remember. Wasn't he the one involved in the scrap, wasn't he? Wasn't he the man that had he had the tete-a-tete with Stephen Wolfe? He decked him, essentially. I think I can say that. I hope I can. Anyway, he was on the floor, put it that way. So he stood down, because he doesn't like Anne-Marie Waters' views. She founded Sharia Watch, by the way. So he stood down. He said he was not prepared to turn a blind eye to extremism. Now, this is rather interesting, this. In a letter to the UKIP interim leader, Steve Crowther, sent before she was passed by the party's national executive as a leadership candidate, Mr. Hookham said he was disturbed by support for her. Disturbed by support. Which is rather interesting, because what she's done is condemn a religion. She believes a religion is evil. And I don't know... I think she's barking mad, by the way. That's my view of her. But I think she should be allowed to think that a religion is evil. She should be allowed to think that. She'd have done better by saying all religion is evil, but in her view, her belief is that Islam is evil. Not all Muslims are evil, Islam is evil. So it might not make a lot of sense to most people. You might agree with her, by the way. That's fine too. But it's just a religion, isn't it? She hasn't said that, I think, the Archbishop of Canterbury is evil. That might be cause for concern. She hasn't said that I think the current Prime Minister is evil. She hasn't name-checked individuals or sort of libelled an organisation or a person. She's just said she thinks a religion is evil. That's all she said. Have a listen to the longer clip, OK? So this was her at an Oxford Union debate. The debate was entitled "The House Believes Islam is a Religion of Peace," and here she is summing up her argument that Islam is not a religion of peace. I have to warn you before we play this that lack of fluency and stringing words together does take place a little bit in this clip, but don't let that stand in the way of besmirching your view on what she says. But this is Anne-Marie Waters, who's standing for the UKIP leadership, speaking about Islam at the Oxford Union.
There are hundreds of millions of peaceful Muslims. That is a fact. But that does not mean that Islam itself is peaceful. Peaceful Muslims interpret verses of the Quran so almost beyond recognition. It's reinterpreted, like the command to beat her. It's there in the Quran, and I've seen Muslim women try to dance around it. They put words in there that simply aren't there. That's what it says. It says beat her. And in the countries where the Quran calls the shots, that is exactly what they do. This is not peace. This is not justice. Islam is not a religion of peace, as the evidence shows us. Thank you.
And there it is, the religion of peace. It isn't, she argues. Should that preclude her from standing as a political party in this country? Just think about this from a freedom of speech perspective, which is sort of where we were in the last hour. So a woman who wants to be a politician is seeking a gig as the leader of UKIP, and she happens to believe, despite the fact that I'm pretty sure it's an unqualified view, I'm pretty sure that she hasn't got much of a Quranic background. I don't know whether she's been to the Middle East. I don't know whether she's studied the Quran. I don't know whether she speaks Arabic. I'm guessing it's a no all around to those points. But that's her basic contention. Doesn't mind Muslims, thinks Islam is evil. Now, it's just a religion, isn't it? The perception won't do UKIP much cop. That's very true. It's hardly going to disassociate itself from what many people see as a party that's discriminatory in many respects. I'm not saying whether that's right or wrong. That's how some people see UKIP. It's not going to do them many favours if the head of the party, the leader of the party, is someone who has pitched up and very publicly said, I think that this religion is evil. But I'm not sure that that in itself is necessarily a particularly controversial thing for someone to think. It's just a religion. It's just a faith. Most people don't follow it. Some have varying degrees, of course, of affinity. Various Muslims have different degrees of affinity to their own faith, like any other faith would do. But it's not. You're not libelling a person. She believes Islam is evil. So what? So what? Surely it's all UKIP's loss. And if you're not a fan of UKIP, shouldn't you kind of be hoping she gets the gig? In many respects, wouldn't her getting the job do more to eradicate what many people see are extremisms within politics, and some see UKIP as extreme? Would that her in the job, surely, is what those people should want to see. I'll talk to Abbas about this in a second. 0345 6060 973. I want to live in a country where a politician can say, I think religion is evil. I think it's utterly mad and potty. She might have done better if she'd said all religion. 0345 6060 973. So you heard what she said. Let me put the question like this. Should Anne-Marie Waters be allowed to stand for the leadership of UKIP? Some of you might say, based on what she said, it's compulsory that she stands as the leadership for UKIP. That is a view. I'm not condemning or endorsing the critics of the UK Independence Party, but we know that is a perception it's struggled with. Her running it would either be a delight to some or be the absolute finish of a party that many think has kind of sunk anyway. 0345 6060 973.
Late Nights with Ian Collins on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
I'm just reminded of... there's this fellow called Tommy Robinson who used to head up the EDL. He doesn't do that anymore. But he's written a book about Islam and why it's all terrible things. And there was an author called C.J. Wellerman who quoted it like this, citing Tommy Robinson: a semi-literate felon who's never studied Islam, can't read Arabic, never spent time in the Middle East, and has written a book about Islam. That kind of sort of sums it up. And although I don't know this about Anne-Marie Waters, I sense she's possibly in that ballpark. I don't know whether she's studied Islam. I don't know whether she can read Arabic. I don't know whether she's spent time in the Middle East. But I'm sort of... instinctively, it's just an instinct. I might be completely wrong. She could have lived all her life in Kuwait, for all I know. But I'm just guessing she hasn't. Quranic studies, no, I don't think they're particularly up there. It doesn't sound like somebody who's really gone the whole hog in knowing her Islamic stuff. But nonetheless, she thinks it's evil, and she is allowed to think that. What's going on, Abbas, in Redbridge?
Hi there, good evening.
Good evening.
Look, I mean, the reality is I have no problem anyone thinking whatever they like. And if it's just two blokes down the pub and they say, oh, I think Islam is evil, then I think nobody's going to bat an eyelid. The problem is if you're in the public sphere and you make a comment like that in public, then I think at the very least, if you make a claim, then you have to provide your evidence as to why you believe it to be so. Because otherwise, if you don't qualify the claim, what you end up doing is you end up basically saying that 1.6 billion people, if they were to follow this religion properly, they'd actually be all evil as well. And this has connotations. It has an effect. Every cause has an effect, and this has an effect of, I believe, creating more disharmony, ill feeling in society. You know, if it's true, as a Muslim, I have no problem whatsoever. You can criticize Islam as much as you like, but provide the evidence. And that's one of the things the Quran says.
Well, her evidence would be there are thousands of people around the world willing to commit terrorist acts in the name of that faith, and they will argue that the book that we talk about tells them to do it in not so many words.
Well, if that were true, then...
Well, those guys think it's true, because we've discussed this before, Abbas. Those guys would think I'm more... they would rather talk to me than you, some of those ISIS boys.
They probably would.
Because you would be seen as a bad Muslim.
They probably would think that. But what I'm trying to say to you, Ian, is that when we judge a situation or we judge a people, obviously we judge it on balance of probability. How probable, how likely is it that this person is actually going to be inclined to believe and do those type of things? Now, the US have provided some very detailed statistics who they feel are extremists around the Muslim world, and it comes to 0.005%. So on that basis, now this is not Muslim statistics, this is the United States saying themselves, this is how many extremists we believe are in the world, and they estimate at that level. Now,
out of the population of the planet?
No, out of the population of the Muslims, which is 1.7 billion. And furthermore, I think the problem with this type of rhetoric, and, we've discussed this several times, Ian, about confirmation bias. And if you already hate religion or you hate Muslims or, you feel it's all their fault or whatever, these type of statements...
True, but she would argue... Come on, Abbas, you know what she's saying here. She's saying, look, hang on, we've got people legging it off to Syria. We've got potentially 25,000 people on an MI5 watch list who could be responsible. We've got female genital mutilation going on. We've got honour killings happening, rare, but they happen. We've got people driving trucks over bridges and letting bombs off in sports stadiums. There is clearly a problem at some level, at some point, with that religion. Not with Muslims, with that religion. That would be her evidence to the jury, as it were.
The problem with that analogy, Ian, is that...
It's true.
The Office of National Statistics said that in England there were close to 100,000 rapes that were reported in one single year in England. 2 partners die at the hands of their partner. 2 people die at the hands of their partner every week. We have a stabbing problem, an acid problem. We have a rape problem. We have all sorts of things in our country that are problems. Are they really representative of what it is to be British, what it is to be English? Or is this just deviant criminality? This criminality...
But her argument, Abbas, would still be that this isn't about just deviance. This is about people who are carrying out either acts of crime or lifestyle choices in the name of their faith. Those people believe they are doing it in the name of their faith.
But then, Ian, if you say that...
So 25,000 people on a watch list is quite high. That's higher than your 0.1% thing.
Okay. But if you're saying that 0.005% are extremists, then clearly the other 99.995% are not extremists. Why don't you concentrate on,
Well, I'm happy to concentrate on that, but I'm trying to think of what her point is on this.
Well, look, clearly her point is a very basic, very raw point that is quite evident. She clearly dislikes Islam. She clearly dislikes Muslims, and she uses confirmation bias to somehow build a picture and demonize 1.6 billion people. Look, I'm not saying we don't have problems in our community, Ian. There are some nutters. There are some complete wackos, crazy people who have, totally corrupted what they've the religion. And used it as an excuse to simply feed their confirmation bias, their predispositions of hatred and revenge.
So you don't think, Abbas, sorry to interject, our previous caller, who's had the same kind of gist of what you were saying, but he finished by arguing the point that I had put forward, which was maybe she should be the head of UKIP, and then for those who are not that enamoured with what UKIP stand for, or what they think UKIP stands for, this would finish them off. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are that in a civilised society that we live in here, which champions fairness, decorum, respect, we should not perpetuate or encourage, propagate views that are clearly going to be disharmonious, cause disharmony in society and cause disruption. It's not about silencing anybody, but it's about being sensible.
You think, in effect, despite understanding perhaps what our last caller said, it's that the stakes are too high. It just becomes rather dangerous to legitimise this at a time when things are delicate anyway.
Yeah, and I don't want an anti-Semite to be a leader of a party, as I don't want a racist to be a leader of a party or a bigot to be a leader of a party.
No, it makes sense. Abbas, hear where you're coming from.